I don't know how we stumbled upon this, but I brought up Robin Ficker's name last hour, and we were talking about the fans in Houston who were heckling Kevin Durant last night. There was one fan who kept yelling out, chanting New York Knicks whenever he would get at the free throw line. And social media picked up on this, and social media making a bigger story out of this because we don't know if Golden State and Kevin Durant are going to part ways and will he end up with the Knicks. And it took a lot longer, back in the 80s and 90s. But if you made it on SportsCenter, and I remember Robin Ficker, who was one of the better hecklers in all of sports, and he was there for the Bullets. They were the Bullets before the Wizards. And Robin had season tickets. He went to every home game. I think he might have been in the second row, but the players knew Robin. And it was almost like a badge of honor if Robin singled you out and started heckling you. You had to be good, I think, for Robin to be heckling you. An attorney, political activist, infamous sports heckler, one of the forefathers, Robin Ficker, joining us on the program. Good morning, Robin. How are you?
Well, good morning. I would have mentioned to Kevin Durant, I would have mentioned the name Monica Wright, his ex-fiancée who's getting married to Mike Rogers, and Kevin's not even invited to the wedding. She tossed Kevin aside, and she's marrying some guy who played for Valparaiso. And Kevin, I would have put that in his mind to keep his thinking away from what he was supposed to be doing. He's not even the most highly paid player on Golden State. Seth Curry makes more money than he does, even though Seth Curry's dad was a poor shot when I used to sit behind him. He was a streak shooter just like Seth. Seth's a little bit better than his dad, but neither one of them can really do much else than sit behind a three-point line and pop it in. But Kevin Durant, I think we need to get into why he's not being invited to the wedding of the girl he was engaged to for so long. He really, he started out with Seattle. He played for Oklahoma for about 8 years, and he's been with Golden State for 3. So now he's looking around again. Where's your anchor, Kevin? Why don't you stay in one place and do well? I know you're making more than $300,000 each game. Okay, why don't you get your salary up where Seth Curry's salary is up near the top? You've got a teammate earning more than you. You claim that you're so good, but why don't you just concentrate in one area instead of moving around like a jitterbug?
All right. Well, you haven't lost your fastball. Give me a sense of the players. Did players how many players reacted to you?
They all did. They used to move their timeouts, their timeout huddles away from the bench. I was in the front row, and then they passed the rule, which is still printed on the back of every season ticket, which says that fans cannot sit behind the opposing bench and interfere with communication between the opposing coach and players. And if they do, they shall be given a warning. And if they're given 2 warnings, then they're tossed out of the game. But, it's free speech. If they don't want the fans who really pay all the royalties, who buy the products, who make the game what it is, if they don't want the game next to those players, then perhaps they should put up a barrier like they have in hockey. So the players, these sensitive little players who are earning $300,000 a game, can't hear what the fans have to say. These fans who worked hard all week want to let loose, who are getting a vicarious thrill, who want to talk to these players. If they don't want the players to hear what the fans are saying, then they should stop selling propinquity. They sell these seats right on the court, right next to the players. The NBA is making a lot of money from these fans. Maybe they should make all the players wear earplugs so that they don't get their mind off their game. I wasn't heckling them. I was just giving them therapy.
Is the Charles Barkley story true? Did he fly you into Chicago during the NBA Finals or buy your ticket or to heckle Jordan?
No, that was into Phoenix. Into Phoenix when he played for Phoenix. Charles Barkley was really my favorite player. He used to leave little notes on my seat saying, "Robin, I hope you don't give me a hard time tonight." He gave me the game ball a few times. He brought down a huge 76er emblem, which was a ring. It was about 10 feet across, and they held that up behind the 76er bench so that the players and Jim Lyman couldn't hear me. And then the league made them take it down. I would say to Charles, I heard you're running for governor of Alabama. Before I vote for you, I want to know your view on health care, the economy, and NAFTA. And he turned around and said, well, I do have a view on the death penalty. They should use it on you.
Did Jordan ever respond to you?
Oh, yeah, he did, because he had claimed he hadn't read Sam Smith's book, The Jordan Rules. He claimed he hadn't read it, which was a bestseller.
You read it to him, didn't you?
I read him excerpts from it, some of the embarrassing excerpts where he made comments about his teammates calling. He called one of the guys a 6'10" stiff. He made some uncomplimentary remarks. There were uncomplimentary quotes in the book, and then occasionally I would make things up. And he would turn around when I did that and shake his head no. He'd read every word of that book. But he and Charles were different, because after the game, Charles would go out in the clubs and there'd be people crowding around him. Mike would go into his private dining room and sit there with some friends. They're really two different people. But, of course, they're both wonderful athletes.
Did anybody take a swing at you?
Yeah. Coach Frank Layden did.
Not a lot of reach there on Frank Layden.
I was complimenting him. He was having a feud with Adrian Dantley, who's one of his best players. I was mentioning that feud, and I was also bringing up the fact that USA Today had rated him the worst-dressed coach in the NBA. Okay, so I was on him the whole game about Adrian and about how he was dressed and what he should be wearing to the games. And at the end of the game, which they won, he came through the seat. He started coming through the seat. The mailman was holding him back. Karl Malone was holding him back, swinging, spitting. He completely lost it. And I was really, everything I said could have been printed in the paper. Nothing was about sexual matters or about race or about anything that couldn't be said.
Would you consider coming back?
Well, it's a lot of fun, but it's just that I'm so busy now doing other things. I broke away from it because my daughter was a professional triathlete. She ended up second in the world Ironman. She was going all over the world. I broke away from it. My sons wrestled in college, and so there are other things you can do other than go to the NBA. But believe me, I didn't miss a game for 12 years. It was a lot of fun while it lasted, and I got to know every player in the NBA. Chucky remains my favorite because he's very good with the repartee. Shaq, I know, was interviewed. They asked him what he remembered most about his first year in the NBA. He said, I remembered that guy behind the bench in Washington who was giving me a hard time the whole game, even after I scored 20 points in the first half. I listened to all his rap records where he would say, he's got skills, and I would change it to you've got bills, and I'd list some of his bills. They get upset. The whole idea really was just to take their mind off their game. Jimmy Jackson, I used to call him Immy Action because he couldn't hit the J. We had a lot of fun. But I tell you, Harden is looking good. It's uncanny. The game has changed since I was there because of these three-point shots. I've never seen anyone who can just dribble like he does, fake a guy out. The guy almost falls over, and then he hits back and hits these threes. The threes have changed the game totally.
Yeah, and you can argue if it's changed it for the better or not. Robin, it's great to catch up with you, and thanks for joining us and sharing some stories.
Yeah, the best player I ever saw, quite frankly, and I saw him in Philadelphia, when I was in law school there was Wilt Chamberlain, because no one could stop that guy. He'd sit under there and dunk the basketball. He's a lot stronger than the guy from Milwaukee Bucks. He was just a tower of power.
I know.
Amazing.
You couldn't stop him, and I'm going to have to try to stop you, Robin. We're up against the commercial break here. Thank you, Robin. We appreciate that. Some great stories.
For more Dan Patrick Show, tune into Audience Channel 239 on DirecTV. Stream for free on BR Live or download the Dan Patrick Show app.